Hey beautiful people, this video is about, is empathy a leadership skill? Is empathy a leadership skill? The short answer is absolutely yes. The better answer is, it's one of the most powerful skills that a leader can build. Hi, I'm Jennifer Kenny. I'm the best-selling author of The Innovation Mindset and the award-winning author of 100% Capacity. I work with leadership in highly technical, complex environments, specifically around projects, to help them lead and deliver on successful projects. I work with the leaders themselves in the projects to be able to do more than just deliver success on paper, but to be able to deliver a measurable business impact. In 2010, Dave Gray wrote a great book called Game Storming. And in that book, he introduced the notion of an empathy map. And an empathy map is, let's be really specific here, a framework as a tool for teams to understand the perspective of customers, one of my favorite things, users and stakeholders. The empathy map was introduced in 2010 in his book. So the cool thing about it is an empathy map is really, I view it and I use it as a back of the envelope way of dropping myself into my customer's world. And by my customer, I mean my internal customer, the person who's going to declare success on my project. I want to be able to spend a little bit of time seeing the world the way they see it. I want to be able to see what they're hearing. I want to be able to see what impacts them. I want to be able to see what pressures them. I want to be able to see what they're excited about. I want to be able to see what they're concerned about, what they're worried about. And so what I do many times before I'll go into an assignment or an engagement, or I'm working with a customer going into a big meeting, I'll draw an empathy map on the back of whatever piece of paper I have. It's a really simple structure, but what it does is it allows me to be able to, walk a mile in my customer's shoes. So when you think about empathy, it's really being able to put yourself in someone else's position and to be able to see, hear, experience, and understand and feel the world from their perspective. This is only useful if you practice it, if you get really good at it, if you allow yourself to be able to ask yourself questions about what you misunderstood or what was wrong or what was anomalous as you start building out your empathy maps and people show up differently than what you would have expected. But as a practice, it's really, really valuable for being able to create higher levels of alignment with people, for spending less time in what I really refer to as the shitty gray areas, where we are duking it out with someone, where we are confused about what someone is saying, where they're right and we're wrong and we're having arguments with them, where we're spending days trying to make sense of what it is that they're doing or the last email that they sent to us, and we just have this constant cycle of kind of aggravation and disruption. Empathy maps many times, not always, many times allow you to be able to build bridges where you may not otherwise have been able to do in the past. Empathy drives performance. According to Gallup, employees with empathetic managers are 59% more engaged. And engagement, as we know, leads directly to higher productivity. So if you're interested in engaging your customers and building empathy with them and building strategic relationships with them, or I refer to it as strategic empathy that builds those relationships, it's also very valuable to look at your people and the people who are reporting to you and the people who you're working directly with. Those people, if they understand that you care about what they care about, you can make sense of what it is that they're saying or what they're asking about. If you're providing them with context and understanding, anticipating that they're going to need that and they're going to be able to take that and add more value and capability with it, then what you're doing is you're putting them in a position where you're empowering them enormously. You're creating a level of autonomy, you're supporting them in building their mastery, and you're helping them further define their purpose. Empathy is an absolutely fundamental catalyst for building engagement with your people. I've talked in a number of other videos about the loop and the idea of a conversation between a customer and a performer, and how people build on that conversation to be able to build trust with each other, to be able to co-invent with each other, to be able to declare definition of satisfaction, definition of done, conditions of satisfaction. It becomes a very powerful little tool for looking at what's missing in organizations and what's stopping things from being successful. The other incredible thing that that simple little loop does, and again, you can watch it in a number of other of my videos, but what that little loop does and those moving people towards having those conversations is it helps people build trust with each other, because they're now coming from a place of empathy, because those conversations allow people to build empathy with each other. Once that happens, you create an environment where people are willing to have difficult conversations around breakdowns, conversations around misunderstandings, on a foundation of trust and empathy. Those conversations are a lot easier to have than if you're trying to have those conversations on a basis of judgment and mistrust. So trust and empathy opens doors for people to be able to declare breakdown sooner, to be able to manage the customer satisfaction more effectively, to be able to manage your satisfaction as a team lead more effectively, for you to be able to manage their satisfaction as employees who are looking to contribute and learn. And so empathy becomes an absolutely integral part of opening up the door for that level of trust and communication to be able to serve both of you. Empathy also balances accountability. This is a little bit of a tricky one, because in the past we have seen empathy as something of a weakness, even to the point of thinking that we need to leave our empathetic selves at the door and be our professional selves and really be hardcore on making sure that we get people to deliver on things. I think as humanity, have become progressively more enlightened, thank goodness, we understand that empathy is actually critical for being able to meet someone where they're at, being able to understand where they're coming from. All of those nice cliches that really have to do with being in a position of empathy with them, knowing where they're coming from. And as you build your ability to be able to do that, what you're going to see is that you're going to be able to provide them with more context for helping them be successful, more context for why they've made a mistake, more context for why they haven't met your standards. And what you can do is you can engage from a point of empathy while at the same time maintaining and sometimes growing and elevating standards. So having a conversation with someone and they've failed around something that you asked them to do, they didn't deliver it on time, they didn't deliver it to a level of quality you're looking for, they didn't deliver it with the insight and thought and foresight and research that you were looking for. So your conversation isn't about blame and shame. Your conversation now is much more about, look, I understand where you're coming from. I understand that I asked you to do this at the last minute. It would have been more effective if you had come to me and said that you didn't think that you could take this on to the standard that you and I both hold for what it means to do this very well. Let's talk a little bit about that standard. So now I'm not having conversation about the person individually, and I'm not having conversation about blame and shame and what they did right or wrong. I'm having conversation around our shared standards. And sometimes many times you'll discover that there's a misunderstanding around shared standards. Empathy opens the door for us to be able to have those very powerful, very effective, and very impactful conversations with people where they really begin to understand the value of standards and they begin to onboard your standards as shared standards that they share with you and that they're committed to delivering against. Empathy also, my favorite one, fuels innovation. So McKinsey says that diverse teams with empathetic leaders are 35% more likely to outperform their peers. Empathy creates an environment where we can co-invent. One of the most important things that we can do if we're looking to innovate is to create spaces for co-invention. And let me define what I mean by that for you. Many people in organizations, and more every day as we become a lot more specialized and our understanding of humanity's technological capability expands orders of magnitude every decade, we have people who are more and more specialized in more particular areas. What happens over time is that we miss our ability to be able to communicate with other people in their area because it's so different from ours. Innovation happens at the interfaces between disciplines, and that's the holy grail of innovation. If we can build empathy with each other as human beings, we can also create an environment where we can co-invent, where I can bring my mastery, my knowledge, my expertise, my sense of what works and what doesn't work, and you bring your mastery, your expertise, your sense of what works and what doesn't work, and we can listen to each other from a place of empathy, and we can build on top of each other's mastery, each other's intelligence, each other's experience, and we can speculate together, we can design together, and ultimately we can move into action together. But we can have conversations that are about building on top of each other rather than correcting each other or tearing each other down. Empathy is the absolute foundation. Empathy and trust are the absolute foundations for that. The other cool thing about empathy is it can be learned. So if you watch little kids playing in a playground, you'll see that some of them, and I don't think it's gender-based, some of them are just more attuned to some of the other kids. They're more willing to help them. They're more willing to offer their toys. They're more willing to step in and try and solve a problem. They've got more of an attunement to where the other person is at. The cool thing about it is it's also something that can be learned. Every human being has some level of empathy, unless they're a complete psychopath, in which case that's a medical diagnosis and something that someone else needs to take care of and not you. But if as a regular human being, people are out there about doing their work, they already have a capacity for empathy. We can build on that with curiosity. We can build on that with learning. We can build on that with what-ifs questions. We can build on that with understanding. We can build on that with incorporating Dave Gray's fantastically simple, wonderfully powerful empathy maps into everything that we do. If you as a leader want to really move forward your own leadership and create space around you for other leaders to grow, strongly recommend that you start off with Empathy Map. It's a practice like any other practice. If you practice piano, if you practice a sport, it's something that you do consistently and get better at over time. Don't shoot it in the foot because you're not successful the first time. Keep doing it until you refine your ability to be able to do it. They're very powerful, they're very effective, and they help you and the people around you build your capacity for empathy, which leads to all the other wonderful things we just talked about. If you're interested in building your leadership skills, I have another video which is mentoring a leadership skill. Have a look at that. Let me know how that relates to this one in terms of how you're doing your work. So just a closing thought is empathy isn't just a soft skill, it's a very strategic skill. It's a leadership skill that can create trust, resilience, results, and it can also cultivate innovation. As you build it for yourself, I wish you the very best of luck, and I hope this video is helpful for you on your path. Take care.